I'd like to call a meeting to order. The August 8th, 2012 meeting of the Lowell Conservation Commission. Moving on to business, HAL Corp. Emil Hooley, or is it Hool? Hool. Project location is 251 Tanner Street, and this is a request for determination of applicability. It's to install a new metal storage building on an existing foundation. Councilor?
Peter Lawler, I'm an attorney in Chelmsford, and I'm representing HAL Corporation. Mark Levine, a principal, is here with us today, and the contractor, Mr. Emil Hool, is here also. This is to help you know where on Tanner Street this is. This is the property, if you're facing toward Target, it's on the right-hand side, the Brook side. And years ago, that used to be where Greenblatt had its scrap business. In 2006, the owners of Max Levine's, the recyclers, erected a steel fabricated building on the right-hand side. At the same time, in conjunction with work with our environmental engineer, Nangle Engineering, we had a responsibility to cap some existing hazardous materials. And so what we did in 2006 was to erect a concrete barrier, which is at its average depth of about 3 feet? 4 feet. And that's a pad that's there today. It's been undisturbed for the last 6 years. What we propose to do, within the building that we have right now, we do processing and storage of materials that we take in for recycling. The same function we would propose in this new building. It would be a metal frame building that Emil can describe better to you. We would have, but what's important for the commission to know is that we would have no subsurface drilling, digging, or disturbing of any type. Not on the asphalt, not on the concrete. We would be attaching the vertical columns for the steel using plates that are there. And when the property was sealed, as it was in 2006, at the time, for erosion control purposes, under the guidance of our environmental engineer, we put in silt fencing, we put in hay bales, and we put in a berm, which has a subsurface. It's about 6 feet deep, and above grade, it's about 3 feet. We have photographs that I'd like to share with the council, if I may. In the front, but you can also see the berm with the gravel in the back. Again, at the direction of our engineer, what we started with an earthen berm with just grass planting has since gone wild. It has all sorts of wild growth in that existing berm, and we have been directed by Mr. Nangle, our engineer, to not disturb it and not pull it out, so we haven't touched it. For the process going forward for this project, for the erection of this building, we believe that because we're not going to be doing digging of any kind, that the existing conditions would be sufficient to guard against any sort of runoff that would go into the River Meadow Brook. Emil, if you'd like, you could help describe the construction process.
Hi, my name is Emil Hool. I own Rescom Builders. I'm the contractor for the project. If you have any questions on basically how we're gonna attach or what is being constructed, I can kind of fill you in.
Yeah, if you could just, I know in your application, you indicate that it's a steel,
It's a steel
Steel sheeted
prefabricated building.
yeah.
Basically comes as a kit.
How long does it take to construct?
Basically, within 2 weeks, it'd be completely framed in. It's a very quick process. It's steel beams that go up, supports across the center, and then it's just metal panels with insulation inside. Very quick process because we're not doing any site work. It basically gets anchored directly into the concrete where the steel beams attach, and then the rest of it goes from there up. I think I did leave a plan when I did the application of basically this, how the structure is manufactured and made. But it's a pretty simple process.
Now, what's the purpose of that? Are you gonna be storing stuff in there? or what's-
Basically, it's for an overflow of storage.
Okay.
Again, they package materials that they send out after they process it there. It's basically metals, aluminums, coppers, you know, basically anything that gets scrapped for, in that type of material, and then they bin it, and they need an area just to push the pallets in there to send out.
All right, when you say metals, you mean
Non-ferrous metals, it's, you know, like I said, shreds of aluminum, could be
solids?
could be copper. Mark could explain it more, being the owner.
Are you washing anything with
No, this is
detergents
strictly
or
storage.
acids or solvents?
Strictly just to put it in that building, and from that point, it goes off the dock and out.
Okay, all right. All right, you all set? Any questions from the
Unless
commission?
you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
I got a couple questions. I don't know who answered them, but I'm just curious, given that this is an engineered barrier that, you know, was designed to be a cover over hazardous materials, I'm curious, was there an environmental land use restriction put on the property that guides what or what cannot be built on that structure?
No. When we first did the construction, which was part of the renovation of the other building, it was the plan to construct this foundation. It encapsulated, we actually did a 12-inch pour over the top to cap it, and that was for that reason, with the provision of later on being able to put a building over it.
Right. Is it just, do you know what the contaminants are? Is it
I don't know.
volatiles, metals? The only reason I ask, I mean,
I
but it
believe
sounds
it's
like,
soils.
okay, the only reason I ask is not knowing the background on this site. I was just curious as to whether or not there was groundwater contamination, and if the use was going to be, if it was going to be occupied versus storage, then there'd be issues of dealing with indoor vapor, what's called vapor intrusion, and
I can tell you, because I was there when we
Yeah.
did the construction, that we did it through Jeff Nangle. There was a poly barrier, as well as, I mean, we did it per their plans,
Right.
which the poly obviously protects anything coming through. And then the 12-inch concrete was to ensure that it was capped properly with no issues.
okay. And it's predominantly storage, correct? Okay. And then the only other thing is just from the figures, it looks like, and I think you said this earlier, you have existing footings, you know, and bump ups from the concrete that you'd be attaching your beams and things to.
It's actually,
Right.
it's actually slab on grade. If you look at one of the colored pictures I could show you, it shows the existing
Right.
foundation. That level, the foundation went in the ground, and then this capped the whole foundation in the inside.
Okay. I have no further comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Varnum?
I'm curious about the, in the pictures, there's a string of Jersey barriers there.
Those were just put in basically to divide that section, to make sure that if someone does come around the building, they don't cut that corner, they make it turn. There was no specific reason for, environmental purposes.
Mark Levine, from Hillcrest Drive in Chelmsford, Mass, and Max Levine. The barriers were leftover barriers when we were just doing traffic, don't go past this point because of operations that we're doing, and we have extra barriers. So I just thought that that was a nice spot to leave them because they might be used in the future. And it kind of made a flow around that corner. And just, obviously you can't even go through them, so it just seemed like it was a good place to keep them, and keep traffic moving. And that's,
Thank you. Now, are they in the same line as the berm,
they're in front of the berm.
in front of the
Yeah,
berm?
they're, as if there's a driveway, they're on the driveway.
So there is a continuous berm behind those
Yes,
Jersey barriers?
yes, there is. Yeah, they're not hiding anything. They're just there.
I don't see on the plan here how far, I don't see that berm located on the plan that you submitted. How far is that from the edge of the brook?
Do you remember what the distances were?
I believe the berm goes to the edge of the property line, which is maybe in the center of where those barriers were, and I'm not 100% sure.
The depth from there to the brook.
No, you're talking where the berm,
It
where the
says
berm ends?
84 feet to brook from the corner of the building.
That's
But-
basically from the existing foundation that's there,
Right.
to get us a ballpark to the
Berm
actual.
is quite a bit further back from that, is it not?
The berm is probably, I want to say probably 50, 60 feet from the foundation in front of the earthen berm.
Now, do you have any plans to use that area behind the berm for anything?
That's where it's all overgrown. And there's an earthen berm behind that, before the brook. Is that what we're talking about? You're talking the Jersey
I believe
berms?
this is, I couldn't get into the property, but I believe there's a space between the berm and the brook, is there not?
Yes.
Of probably 20 or 30 feet wide, is it?
Yes. It's all overgrown. That's all basically,
So there's no plans to use that particular strip for anything?
no. That was all done originally through Nangle, who designed that to maintain the water on the property with the asphalt berm. And then the earthen berm is behind that. And then you'll see the stone as well that is a buffer.
All activity takes place on the pavement, on the concrete bituminous pavement, like the driveway. That's the activity in the area, is just driving on that. There's nothing dumped on there or left there.
So everything in front of the berm is paved, basically?
Yes.
I did see a pile of crushed stone or something there. Is that part of the berm? Or is that excess material?
Aside from the crushed stone that's in front of the berm, running along the property, next to the pavement, we keep some fresh stone because every now and then in our yard, there are areas where over the time, if you're driving on the rocks, it makes a little depression, and then we'd take that and we'd smooth everything out. And it's just
It's actually a pile of processed gravel, because when that was done, like he said, the weight of the trucks after a while, it swales down. So basically, it's made to just be able to infill those voids to keep it somewhat level. And that's on the other property with it.
That was my main concern, that things not be stockpiled or dumped behind the berm, or that area behind the berm not be used for anything without us coming back and having another talk about it.
not at all, no intentions.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bedrin? All right. I note from the plan, who measured the 84 feet from the foundation?
I did that, just to get us a ballpark of where we were from the foundation.
Okay, and that's to the River Meadow Brook?
Yes.
All right. I know that's probably not an exact science, but...
It's not. It gets a little tough when you start
Yeah,
going down
well,
that bank. And
I mean, the riverfront area in Lowell is 25 feet, so I think clearly we're outside of that zone, but it's still within the buffer zone. of a bordering vegetated wetland, so so the RDA is proper. Is there going to be stockpiling of materials in that back loading dock area at all?
No, the loading dock basically is when the customer comes in, they go to the loading dock, and the materials go in the building. Mm-hmm. And then they stay in the building until they're ready to be, they get packaged basically in there, and then they can go into the storage building to be moved out, shipped out.
Okay, and I trust your LSP, Mr. Nangle, is aware that this is the plan here. It's not clear from his letter dated, June of this year, or is it June?
It was June.
Yeah, June of this year.
He
It appears that this is just one of his annual checkups of the cap as
I
opposed
know based
to...
on my experience, he's there quite a bit and is pretty stringent to the point where he inspects the pavement. He's been
He personally does it.
All right,
pretty sharp.
okay. Are there any other questions from the commission? Okay. All right, I mean, to me, I think, a -3 just, it would be proper on this with, in addressing Commissioner Varnum's concern about stockpiling behind the berm. But to me, it sounds like this, this could be done. Council, you may want to discuss your long-term site with the Tanner Street citizens.
We've actually met with them.
Oh, all right, okay.
Attended both of the public meetings,
Oh, okay.
and are scheduled to have a private meeting within the next month.
Well, I'm also on that, but you probably missed me because I missed the first meeting on that. I was on vacation, but and just because I know that this is in the area, that where they're, the Tanner Street's going to be reconfigured, widened, and whatnot. But there's also some very preliminary plans about actions behind these structures, and they're more long-term, but whether or not it affects your particular property or not, but just to keep it in mind, so you're not in a situation where perhaps you build something and may think, we could dovetail more into the project, or to your advantage or
Well, in
disadvantage.
fact, this is in part why we're doing this. A lot of on the overlays that we've been shown, a bulk of the relocation of Tanner Street that could occur would be shifting it so it lines up with the entrance to the target, which would cut into car wash and
Right.
the existing brick building that we currently use. Having this building completed, as we're talking about proposing to do, would allow us to significantly decrease the utilization that we currently rely on the brick building have. Not completely, but significantly.
Okay, good. All right. Do I have a motion? Yeah, sure.
You mentioned that the hay bales and silt fence had been in place since 2006.
Yes.
Yes.
Did Mr. Nangle, or is it your intention to keep those in place? Were they recommended to be in place, or what is the situation with
What
those?
Mr. Nangle has said to us is to not disturb them or anything else. And so we haven't touched them, and we're not planning on touching them.
So they probably will require some maintenance from time to time.
I would
Is he the
suspect
one
that
that checks those?
Yes, he's the one who checks those, and if he tells us to supplement them and replace them with new hay bales, then we'll certainly do that.
We also have that earthen berm that's in front of those, which is part of that protection and the stone. That was all done per his request.
All right. Do I have a motion on this?
I move to issue a -3 for this determination with the condition that the silt fence and hay bale line be checked periodically for maintenance purposes, and that no stockpiling of materials shall occur beyond the line of the berm,
You mean between the line of the berm and the brook?
between the berm and the brook.
Do I have a second?
Second.
By Commissioner Biedron, motion by Commissioner Varnum. Before I shut us all down, is there anyone who'd like to offer their comments or concerns? I note that there's only one other applicant in the room, so. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye or nay. Commissioner Lovely? Yay. Commissioner Varnum? Commissioner Biedron?
Aye.
Chair is yes. All right, it carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just, if you could kindly just send an email or whatnot to Aaron about a week before you start your construction.
I'll take care of it.
Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Moving on. Request for determination of applicability, Mira Development. Project location is 65 Perkins Street, and it's to remove debris and repair a portion of an existing raceway wall. Attorney Flood, if you could identify
Evening,
yourself for the
Mr.
record.
Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 549 Roger Street, Lowell, representing Myra Development. I think the application kind of speaks for itself, what has to be done or what he's asking to be done. And I think I'll just turn it over to Ed Walsh, who's very familiar with the whole project, and he can explain it and tell you how it came about and what he specifically wants to do.
Good evening, Ed Walsh, with Myra Development. Sorry about that. I actually grabbed a few more photographs this evening of what the area looks like. If I can go back and bring them up to the your table, Chris. As you can see from the photographs there, just actually how much debris is in the raceway. You can also see the broken concrete. What's the remnants of what had been some type of a catwalk that was installed sometime in the 40s and 50s. Just tree branches, rubble, brick. I think there's even an old shopping cart. So what we'd like to do is that the water is right now is down, and it's usually down in the summer and the fall. It's just put some, most likely some hay bales on the eastern border, just underneath, excuse me, just underneath the pedestrian bridge that comes out of the hub tower. And we also would like to remove the concrete wall. It was built sometime, we think, in the 40s. It's a cast-in-place wall. As you can see, there's actually a large crack in the middle of it. We have actually discussed with historic, the wall is not historic. Probably go back with another cast-in-place wall, and then we may face it with fieldstone or something. We're not quite sure. But that will give us access. And we also would like to remove between 4 and 6 inches of the muck. That's probably about the best way we can describe the stuff that's in the bottom of the canal, and then go back and replace it with stone. Because where the water level goes up and down, depending on how much rainwater they've had, and also what NL is doing with the canal, we'd like it to be, when the water is, as it is right now, in a down condition, just not a haven for everything. So we would probably put in somewhere between a 4 to 6 inches the diameter riprap, just to basically make it a lot more attractive.
What purpose does that concrete wall serve? Or
We think, Chris, that the raceway used to go down another 100 feet to the west. Over time, not too sure when because the records are spotty, they shorten the raceway. So it was just, they put in there. With historic, we actually are required to maintain the prism of that raceway. So we are going to have an open landscaped area when we went through planning board. But since that you do need to have some type of retaining wall because the elevation of the canal versus where the landscaped open courtyard will be is about 8 feet, 7, 8 feet. But it was installed maybe in the 30s or 40s, not sure. And then what they did is whether there was an old building there, that they went back and actually filled in the back side, the western side of the raceway with rubble and so forth.
So what's on the other side of it?
Right now, it's just open space.
So what are you going to put in its place? Anything or?
Yeah, so when we take that wall down that's broken, we'll go back with the same, most likely cast in place concrete wall of the same dimension. And then we may put either a field stone in the front of it. We're not sure at this point. But we have checked with historic. They said they actually would be in favor of us taking the wall down, putting up something more attractive. It's got besides the crack, it's actually bowing a lot. It's actually bowing to the east. It's got you can't see it from the photograph, but it has a big, actually, east-west bow. So.
Well, there's a big crack right down the.
Oh, yeah. So at some point it's
Full of
going to
it.
fall down, and we'd rather fix it now.
Hmm.
And what we, from a safety standpoint, what we would put on top of it is a 3.5-foot fence. So it would look similar to the fence or the walkway fence that you see, Bill, going from the hub tower. So the same type of fence.
What are the plans now when you say you want to remove the muck? Do you know how deep that is? That's got to be several feet deep.
We want to just remove about 6 inches of it, and then what we'll put back in place is some riprap just to clean it up. We just want to take the top 6 or 8 inches off of it. You know,
There aren't any utility lines and stuff lying down in there
no.
like
And
there
we
are
also-
in some
we
of the
can't-
canals, are
We
there?
can't dig down too far because the way they built the walls, in fact, actually, when we build the new building that's going to be off of Perkins Street into the west of the hub tower, there's some silty loam and some silty loam down below. So the canal wall in this location is about another 3 feet down, but it rests on not the best soil. So we don't want to get down too far. We're just going to leave it. There's going to be a wall cast in place, inboard of that wall as the foundation support for the new building. So even though it will overhang on the cantilever, we're not bearing on the wall. The hub and McQuaid buildings, that wall was on more solid material. So why there was some peat and some organics, just not sure. But we have done a geotechnical test, and the engineers are not comfortable with bearing on it directly, so we'll dig in front of it, put some type of a wall. It'll either be a 4-foot wall or down 6 feet. Then we'll go back with the building and cantilever over. So you'll see a flush face with the granite wall in the building.
Now when this is filled with water, this drains into the Merrimack, correct?
It does, when it ever does fill up, yeah.
What sort of plan do you have, or potential remediation do you have to, once you disturb this area, to keep the siltation from running off into the Merrimack? I know there's a fair amount probably gets in there now, but
Yeah, what we would do is we'd probably put a series of sandbags up about 3 feet. So that would be on the eastern border near the pedestrian bridge. And we'd go back, get the area cleaned up, put the new wall in, take off the debris, and then go back and remove the sandbags. But at that point, we'd be walking out on stone. And then we also have a silt curtain inboard underneath, under the hub building. We have another silt curtain actually downstream on the eastern side where the hub building, and just between the hub building and the admin building. We call it 1 Perkins.
That's the old administrative building, or?
Same thing, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's the same building. Some people call it the captain's building, but we actually refer to it as the administration building.
And obviously, this debris that you're taking out, that's going to be removed from the site
Yes, correct, yeah.
same day, or?
It'll be put in, well, the debris itself will go into roll-offs, the metal debris, the concrete debris, and then the muck would go into roll-off as well.
All right, I noticed that there's a concrete stairway in there. Is that the stairway to nowhere that was over by Lowe's forever?
Chris,
Was that its final resting place?
I have no idea where that came from. There was a shopping cart. There's stuff in there we can't fathom where it came from, but I think we can't find any pictures, but there's the cantilevered concrete platform. Maybe it also had concrete steps that we don't quite know.
All right. Commissioner Lovely, any questions?
No questions, it's pretty straightforward, thank you.
Commissioner Varnum?
Have you had any success in finding a location for the 3 sycamore trees yet?
No, we have not actually discussed it with the city, but we will. They'll go in the park, somewhere in the park.
Commissioner Biedron?
You mentioned those two silk curtains on the other buildings.
Yep.
Will this flow be flowing through those?
Yeah, so the flow, whenever it is flowing, it flows actually in a west or east direction. And then there are 4 raceways that actually come out of the one Lancet Mill. It's called the North Canal, but it's actually south. And then they flow into the Western Canal, which goes into the river, but it's actually east. I don't know why, but that's how it is. So there are 4 raceways that come down through the parking lot where we built the garage, and then they make a 90-degree turn underneath the building. So we actually built or rebuilt Perkins Place underneath the canal, so we kept the canal in place.
Okay.
But at this point, water level's low.
Could you do this construction either in the summer or winter when it is low flow?
We'll actually do it now,
You'll do it,
once we
okay.
get approval. So we have all the building permits.
Okay.
So we're actually right now under construction. So we'll do it this summer and this fall, and then pop out the sandbags.
And I'm assuming, do you need to get secure permissions from Locks and Canals, or?
No, we actually own the raceway. The only thing that NL owns are the water rights, and there's no water. So we own the raceway there. We also own the raceway within the building.
Okay. All right. Any further questions from the commission? Is there anyone here who'd like to offer their comments or concerns? No one's here. All right. I can't stress enough that, again, with Commissioner Varnum's comment, I want to
Absolutely.
get moving on those sycamore trees.
Yep, that's fine, yep.
Even though that's not necessarily part of this filing. All right, I missed that then. This is kind of a eyesore, so.
Yes.
And that's, at least, I know I walk by here on occasion, and from downtown when I go over to a Spinners game or something like that, you're sort of in this general neck of the woods, and it's kind of sad to see the condition sometimes. So.
And also what Bill had asked us, that we will go back and we're going to put a pedestrian walkway between the hub tower and then just west of the tower, so that will be open for that pedestrian flow through 24/7. Right now they go through the hub tower entrance, but it's only open at 7 a.m. to 6 p. But this will now be open full time.
All right. Okay, good. Do I have a motion on this? I think we can likewise dispose of this with a -3.
I'll offer a motion to move ahead with the request for determination of applicability with a -3 determination.
Do I have a second? Motion by Commissioner Lovely,
Second?
second by Commissioner Biedron. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Yeah, the chair is yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
All set. I think we're all done unless,
Yeah, there's just a couple pieces of information for the commission's consideration or just knowledge, general knowledge. There was an appeal by the property owner on Shirley Ave of the decision to deny. We received a copy of it on the 31st, so that was the day they filed it. If you'd like, I can, it's up in the box, but for those having trouble, I can email you a copy of their appeal. It's actually.
yeah,
got the
please do,
language on it.
please do.
Yeah.
Was it a detailed appeal?
Yeah,
All right, because I haven't seen it
yeah, I
yet,
mean,
so.
yeah, there's a couple points. I don't know
All right,
how
yeah, I'd
if
like
I
to
call
see it,
detailed,
just
but
for-
there's points.
Just
They make an
for
argument.
point of reference. How are we doing with the proposed changes? Or we've already approved those. Do we have any,
Well, they've been submitted to the city council. They've referred it to the solicitor's office to prepare the vote. It hasn't been rescheduled for a city council meeting as of yet, but I know it's the staff in the legal department is preparing it.
all right, perhaps send a, I want
Be
to
a little-
get that going.
We're trying to keep it moving forward, and it's on their radar. They're aware that we're acutely interested in the raising of the limit on consulting fees.
Right, okay.
Peer review consulting fees. The other thing that we are taking a look at right now, just from a broader perspective of the Division of Development Services fees, is the fee schedule for all the boards in the commission. And some of the things that we're looking at is nothing really big as far as the Conservation Commission, except that we're considering actually eliminating the fee for requests for determinations of applicability. And the reason we want to do that, right now it's $75. It's kind of a nominal fee, but we want to further encourage property owners in the city to take the extra step and apply to the Conservation Commission before they act. And by just limiting any barriers we can, I think we can encourage, we're hoping to encourage people to go through that process rather than kind of upfront, rather than catching them on the back end and then putting them through the RDA or a notice of intent process.
Is there a state mandated fee for that? No, it's
No,
just
that's
done
a
by city
local-
ordinance?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. The only state mandated fee is to do with the notice of intent filing, so.
I think
So-
we do. Well, Luis would remember this. It was probably about 10 years ago we had discussed the fee structure on some of these. I know it was before your time. And it was before the most recent round of fee changes, too.
We had discussed it last summer when we were talking regulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe Craig had brought it up at one point. I mean, this broader concept was a higher priority last summer, but it didn't make it into that round of the budget. So what we're doing is taking a look at that now. The other piece of that too, that's just from an operational perspective, and again, it has more to do with the project review group as a entity within development services, is align the notification process, and I think this is kind of, it's consistent with what the commission was trying to do as far as notification to abutters, so that the distance is similar to what the zoning board and the planning board provide for notification to abutters. But what we're going to try to do is bring that mostly in-house, so that if an applicant comes in to submit to the Conservation Commission, and then they also need to submit an application to the planning board, Perkins Street is a good example of that. They had to actually go through both of those two. They're not going through wildly different processes. It's in just getting the application prepared. It's not a huge.
Similar to what we did with trying to standardize the figures and maps that get submitted, similar legends, similar scales, so that the applicant isn't going through multiple drawings.
That's correct. Yeah, the idea is that it's a standard process, to make life a little bit easier. And so I think that the impact on the commission, hopefully in the long term, will be that you get a more standard application, a standard set of materials, and in a timely manner without kind of a back and forth. So that's
Will
what
that make it easier for the applicants, especially if they have to appear before multiple boards?
a lot easier. It'll make it a lot easier because right now it's wildly different. It's between the way that the notice is actually drafted and then distributed to the abutters between the planning board and the conservation commission. Right now, for the conservation commission, the applicant actually drafts the notice for distribution to abutters. Planning board, staff drafts it, but they distribute it. So it's the exact opposite. So it's confusing for anybody who's worked, once or twice with one board and then tries to work with another one. Then also it would bring a lot of the work product in-house and, save the applicant time and frustration, I think. So it's intended to be, just continue following through with this kind of streamlining of the process and improving customer service. Might also save the applicant money, we'll see.
All right. All right, we have a couple things to sign.
Oh, yes, I know, I'll bring those back. The one other thing too, just for the next meeting, it looks like we'll have one notice of intent filing from the national park for I don't know how else to describe it, but a old piece of infrastructure of the canal that's currently near the swamp locks, just upstream from the swamp locks. Apparently it's about ready to fall off its hinge, and so they need to secure it, and so they have a filing that I believe we'll have on for the 22nd, just as a kind of heads up.
I mean, wouldn't that fall under the maintenance exception for utility?
Because it's not still used, it's actually, is that on? Yeah, it's not used as a part of energy production, it's not utility infrastructure, it's historical infrastructure? No. We looked at that.
But it has the potential for being used, though, doesn't it? Or no?
No, it's an old, it's
Okay.
just a giant piece of granite that's sitting there that's never gonna be used again,
All right, okay.
as far as I can tell. Well, I should never be so definitive about that. Who knows in 150 years, but.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second
I'll second
by
it.
Commissioner Lovely. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Good night.